that Andhra Pradesh, as you look down the tunnel over the next decade and a half, shows the promise of having a double-digit growth every year. And this is not surprising. Notwithstanding the global environment and its impact on all economies, including India, for more than one good reason, this state stands out as an island where the growth has to be much higher than the national average. And for us to target this is essential if the state itself has to catch up. About 3 years ago, by a legislation passed by Indian Parliament, the larger state was divided, and the division did create two unequal parts. Where we are today assembled was more unequal on account of several reasons. And that legitimately had raised issues of serious concern. At that stage, we had all examined how the state could be helped. And I'm glad 2.5 years after the state was created, when I stand before you, step by step, governments both at the center and in the state, and with due credit going to the large body of investors and the people of Andhra Pradesh, are marching forward and reaching and targeting that area where in less than 2.5 years the state can comfortably boast or claim to be the easiest place to do business in India. Our official rankings show that if you invest in Andhra Pradesh, it becomes the easiest place to do business in India. In a record time of 2.5 years, the central government has enabled a large number of central institutions to be set up in the state. Because most of those institutions which existed in the undivided state went over to the other part. Various promises were made, both in legislation and otherwise. And surely and steadily we are one after the other moving in the direction of fulfilling each one of them. As far as the state's future potential is concerned, we at the center in India have a great vested interest in the progress of this state. I foresee for the next few years, Andhra Pradesh growing at least 4 to 5% ahead of the national GDP. And if that were to happen, with the contribution of all of us assembled here, I think even in what appears to be a period of global slowdown, we'll all be able to contribute to India's growth process by having some high growth states like Andhra Pradesh itself. Andhra Pradesh has a huge potential. It promises to be on the east coast, the most vibrant state with a coastal economy. It's targeting manufacturing, it's targeting services, and hopefully once the Polavaram project fully gets commissioned, it will also be an important agricultural powerhouse as far as India is concerned. We are assembled here at a stage where the world itself is facing serious challenges. It's struggling to get out of the slowdown process. The future appears to be uncertain. There is also a rising tendency, more particularly amongst the developed world, of falling back on protectionism. How do we in India deal with this situation? Over the last few years, I think what has kept India going at reasonable, amongst the fastest growing rates in the world, are a series of factors. And I think the most important factor is that there is a changed attitude and vision as far as the people of India are concerned. Never in Indian history have we seen a situation where the people of India come out and openly become so increasingly aspirational that they start supporting and demanding reforms and change in an Indian society. As a result of this, a series of policy changes across the country, both by the centre and several state governments, have taken place. Today, the environment for policy formulation in India has become far more positive than it ever was. Notwithstanding this wave of protectionism elsewhere in the world, there is not even a slightest discussion of those tendencies as far as India is concerned. We have become one of the most transparent, one of the most open economies in the world, which almost in sector after sector invites foreign investment. 90% of the investment that we get into India is through the automatic route. That shows the level of transparency which has also, and ease which has come into the system. We are investing in a very big way in different areas of infrastructure. We are investing in a very big way in rural India, which was otherwise the more unprivileged part of India. And it is these investments which have kept the growth process going. And I think what is very significant, in the last 1 year that has gone by, amongst the various changes and reforms which have taken place, there are three very important directional changes which have taken place. The first is what we call the JAM, where J stands for the Janadhan accounts, A stands for Aadhaar, and M for the mobile phones. That gives you so much data. It makes financial inclusion far easier. It makes targeting of subsidies and state support to those who are entitled to it, to the exclusion of others, far easier. For decades, we've spoken in terms of rationalization of state support and subsidies. Here, for the first time, you have now an institutional legislative mechanism in place where this is actually taking place, resulting in very large savings which can otherwise now be directed towards the benefit of the less privileged people in India. The second most important change which has taken place is the passage by the Indian Parliament and the state legislatures of the Constitution Amendment enabling the goods and services tax. That itself enables India to become one large market, allow a free flow of goods and services across the country, have only one taxation system in the country, eliminate multiple assessments, eliminate taxes on taxes, and therefore make business processes simpler, introduce a more efficient tax system, eliminate all forms of discretions and corruptions, and probably check in evasion and bring more revenue to the coffers as far as the centre and the state governments are concerned. I'm particularly glad that almost all state governments have actively cooperated in making this a reality. Most of the contentious issues have been sorted out in the GST Council, which is a forum of where you can actually see deliberative democracy in action, and those are being very actively now at the final stages of implementation. The third, I think, was perhaps one of the most important changes which took place in India, was the move to demonetize the high denominational currency in India. The reality and truth always was that in terms of taxation, both direct and indirect, India was largely a non-compliant society. In a taxation non-compliant society, states and the central government struggle with their revenues to run the system. It creates an unfair enrichment in favor of the evader as against those segments of the economy and the society on whom these resources are to be spread. It also becomes very unfair on the normal taxpayer, because what the evader manages to evade is what the compliant has to pay more. As a result of this, the government therefore decided to demonetize the high denominational currency, which shook the system for some time, but which has now gradually increased the process of integrating India's shadow economy, the parallel economy, the informal economy in far greater number with the more formal economy. The size of the more formal economy is expanding. So are the transactions in the banking system and through the digital mode. This is going to result, coupled with the GST, in the days to come, much larger revenues as far as the states are concerned, as far as the central government is concerned, and expand the size as far as the formal economy is concerned. Now, these important, significant changes actually lay down the direction in which the Indian economy is moving. Now, with this direction of the Indian economy, in otherwise a slowed down world, what happens to one of the most progressive states of India, states like Andhra Pradesh? I think, as I mentioned earlier, Andhra Pradesh obviously has the advantage of many areas where the development is to take place. You have a capital to be built. You have large irrigation projects to be executed. You have a coastal economy in play. You have the service sector. You have more townships which have to come up. More manufacturing has to come up. Therefore, the avenues of investment in a state like Andhra Pradesh are far more compared to other parts of the country. The decision-making process here is far more. And I think Andhra has the advantage, if I may say so, much to the embarrassment of the Chief Minister, in him a leadership which provides direction with a certain amount of clarity and has a single-minded pursuit of the economic development of the state itself. Now, once you have a Chief Minister who provides that cutting-edge leadership itself, I would be surprised that my own estimate of Andhra growing 4 to 5% higher than India's GDP itself could also be exceeded if the Chief Secretary's assertion that it could even be targeting something close to 14%, which is something otherwise unheard of in India itself. And I'm sure the fact that of the division itself and catching up on the bends, that for the second consecutive years the CII is holding the partnership summit here. It has attracted a great amount of response as far as other investors from all over the world are concerned. Let me assure all of you and the Honorable Chief Minister that we have not only fulfilled whatever promise we had as far as the central government is concerned, but will walk an extra mile as far as the state of Andhra Pradesh is concerned, because we know that it is here where the potential of much higher growth for the state and for the rest of India arises. I wish this conference a great success. Thank you.